session in our webinar series, From Idea to Success. I am Jeannine Comma, and I am a director of the BEF and your moderator for this evening. We have held 5 sessions, which began on April 30th, and this, our final session, is entitled Growing and Sustaining Your Idea in a Post-COVID-19 Environment. The objective of the webinar series and what we've aimed to do was to provide an online forum for practical and hands-on discussion about the journey of entrepreneurship from idea to success. Just a bit about the BEF. I think most of you perhaps now after our series, our webinar series, know about us. We've been in existence for the past 10 years, and many of you may have been familiar with us through our $20 challenge and other initiatives which we are also involved in. We decided to launch this series as it is closely aligned with the BEF's mandate to help, support, and create an entrepreneurship culture in Barbados. Therefore, for this evening's session, I take great pleasure in introducing our 3 panelists. Our first panelist is Melinda Belle. Melinda is an author, teacher, and financial consultant, and from an early age had a particular interest in money. Melinda sees her role as that of an architect and is committed to the shaping of financial landscapes of men, women, boys, girls, businesses, and nations, teaching families and individuals to manage their money and to create wealth. Melinda is the founder and managing director of Estrape Finance, Inc. in Barbados, with a mission of being the leading financial education company providing resources on personal and business financial management in the Caribbean. Welcome, Melinda.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. A second panelist calls himself a serial entrepreneur. He is the co-owner of Animacon, Inc., the Eastern Caribbean's largest pop culture convention. He's also the owner of Aeon Bar and Grill, a pop culture themed restaurant and bar, and is also the publisher of Soltreon Chronicles, a Caribbean-themed science fantasy series. The Soltreon Chronicles video game is currently in development with a 2021 launch. Omar holds an MBA from Pace University in New York City, and he enjoys creating new projects, mentoring entrepreneurs, and business development. Omar is also a director of the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation. Welcome, Omar.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Mr. Kyle Smith also sees himself as a serial entrepreneur with businesses in the fast food, transportation, and accommodation industries. He is the co-owner of the popular food truck Curbside Cafe. He has reverse engineered his entrepreneurial experience, having ventured into the corporate world, and is currently the sales manager for Suzuki and Isuzu at Simpson Motors. He is passionate about entrepreneurship and its positive socioeconomic impacts as an alternative to traditional forms of employment. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you for having me.
So, ladies and gentlemen, our topic is growing and sustaining your idea in a post-COVID-19 environment. What we are hoping that this evening's session will do, in large measure, is to pull together some of the nuggets, if you will, of the other webinar series sessions which we did over the past 4 or 5 weeks. Just want to run through what were some of the titles of some of the others. The first one was Stepping Out as an Entrepreneur, and 2 pieces of nuggets, if you will. that were shared at that session was be passionate about your idea and plan for those periods of no revenue. So Melinda, this should definitely be interesting for you. The second one was examining your idea, considering that you need to understand who your customers are. You also need to market to fulfill or create a need. Costing and pricing, what are the elements of the cost that impact your pricing? Financing your idea was the third one. You must have management systems in place to aid decision making. Use your operating metrics to improve your finances, and not all money is smart money. Choose wisely. The fourth one was formalizing your idea. And the point that came up was to delay formal registration until you are able to meet your obligations. And you don't need to hire staff immediately. Use alternative resourcing. Leverage your networks. And the last one we had on Monday was marketing your idea. You are your brand. Internal marketing and leadership are important. Your work serves as a testament for your business and that the business model evolves. And most importantly, marketing research is essential before you go to the market. Now, I'm not necessarily asking you to piggyback on those, but more so to say those are some of the ideas that came up. But we want to know from you today, what do you see as some of the possible opportunities for entrepreneurs in a post-COVID-19 environment, given that we know things are not the same now and will not be the same as they were 4 or 5 months ago going forward. So let me start with you, Melinda. Please take the floor.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. I want to thank the BEF for having me as part of this panel. So I always share my story about how I started my company. I started my company with $0. Yes, I had no money whatsoever. So my company is a services industry company. So it wasn't totally dependent on having capital to begin with. However, I always tell people, and I always say, businesses are birthed out of a business owner's personal experience. And you find a solution for yourself that you want to share with others. And I realized that for myself because I'm into personal finance, I'm into business finance. But the issue that I had was with spending money badly. And it was because I didn't have a vision for my life. I didn't have an idea of where it is that I wanted to go. I wasn't goal oriented. So because of that fact, I fell behind very badly. But then I understood that in order to, to move forward, I needed to sit down and have a plan for my life. And it was then when I realized that out of, finding out, the different habits that I had and the reasons why I exhibited those habits, that I was able to confront them and really change my behavior. So I always go about teaching people about how, how your mindset affects the way you manage your money. So because I found a solution for myself, I then decided that this could be a market for other people, especially in light of the financial crisis that would have occurred in 2008. I mean, right now we are in one, COVID-19 is here, but because I found a solution for myself, I just wanted to help other people. So you may find a solution for yourself during this pandemic. You never know what it may be, but it could help solve problems, because the reason why we start businesses is that, we have a solution to a problem that everyone has. There are other companies who would have started, especially delivery companies, because people may be afraid to actually go in the lines to actually acquire these necessary items. So because of that need, people are filling that need. So, everybody's looking for a solution. So it's just for you to position out you and find out what it is that people need help with. So that's what I did.
Okay, thank you. All right. Kyle, you want to share with us what you see as possible new opportunities that will present themselves to entrepreneurs in the post-COVID-19 environment?
Yeah, actually, to piggyback kind of on what Melinda was saying as well, where you find a solution for yourself. When I started my business, Curbside Cafe, I found myself, I was working a part-time accounting job, and when I was looking for lunch options and people in the office were looking for lunch options, many of them were quite the same, and that kind of helped guide the direction of Curbside Cafe, where we wanted to offer alternatives to the traditional types of food in Barbados. So that definitely was one of the driving forces behind my business as well. Also, in a COVID-19 environment, I think for me as well, one of the great opportunities that has come up is to implement delivery and also to take advantage of just e-commerce as a whole in order to streamline our processes. So one of the things we are looking at doing would be having an online order mechanism whereby it's no longer required for us to have a telephone conversation, which can be time consuming and reduce the amount of orders we can take at a particular time. So that's something that we're definitely working on. So the main things would be to take advantage of the e-commerce, and also in the post-COVID-19 environment, I think delivery will be very important, and also just the overall customer experience to kind of speed up the process and also reduce the contact points with your customers where possible. So those are the major opportunities, I would say, in a post-COVID-19 environment.
Okay. All right. Omar, could you share with us your perspective on the same question?
Absolutely. I'm a creative at heart. My philosophy is that we are created to create. And as I was growing up, I was creating games and comics and novels from the time I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I continued up until this day. And, you know, when I was growing up, I was at school, you know, we were always taught to become a doctor, a lawyer, or a bank manager, and there's no money in creating, there's no money in art, there's no money in any of those things. So I took it to heart, and I went off and I studied business and finance, and I came back and I did that entire thing for a while, and it really wasn't for me. So I have become an entrepreneur full time, and I've gone back to my artistic roots with my novel series. You know, we're getting some comics done, and we're building up the prototype for the video game as we speak. I think a very large aspect of what can be done in a post-COVID world, where we're sitting in front of the TVs and we're now getting bored of, you know, watching Netflix all day for the last, 2 months. You know, you need things to do. I think the creatives of Barbados and indeed the world should use this as an opportunity, whatever ideas they have, to help alleviate some of the boredom. Yeah, you know, idle hands to the devil's work. So if you can create things which can give the persons things to do, it's so easy right now to create games for Facebook, on Google, on Apple. You know, even if you have an associated brand, for example, you have a restaurant for Aeon Bar and Grill, we created 2 or 3 games where persons can play, ranging from an Aeon Bingo, an Aeon Never Have I Ever, you know, an Aeon, I don't want to call it a snakes and ladders, but it's like a Monopoly type game where you roll a dice. And, you know, our patrons who can, who have enjoyed our products, enjoyed our services, you know, they can play and they can reminisce on, you know, the good old Aeon days and long to come back. So if you have a business and you want to maintain relevance, do something creative to encourage your clients to say, okay, these guys are thinking of me, I'm thinking of them, I can't wait to get back, you know, on the saddle and, you know, frequent their establishments once again. So what I would encourage anyone, you know, when we're all growing up, you know, very few people say, I want to grow up and become an accountant. You know, we all want to grow up and create something which is really, really cool and awesome. And we all have that within us. So explore it. We have time. You know, there are some people who are saying, you know, the social distancing will last into 2021. You know, get your product out there now. Think about it. You know, you don't have to do everything yourself. Find persons who may have the expertise you do not to get it to market, and, you know, use it to buttress your own business, or use it to create your own business. There are a lot of opportunities out there.
Okay, but Omar, many persons would say, I don't have a creative bone in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never wanted to be creative or to do something creatively as I was growing up. I was perhaps looking for something that was more standard, if you will. Not necessarily the lawyer or Indian chief, but something that was more traditional. Yeah. So what do you say to those who really are not creatively oriented, but still want to do something else? Now, I heard about, not to cross you, I heard about delivery. We may also hear, well, everybody is doing the delivery business now, so there's no more opportunity there in a sense, or that the market seems to be a little flooded. The lines are going down at the supermarket, and people are going out to the supermarket because it's an outing. And I have a question about e-commerce, so I'll come to you in a minute, Kyle, about that. But I wanted to address the issue to you, Omar. If you're not a creative, what may be other kinds of opportunities that you could pursue?
I believe one of the major problems that creatives have is that they are not business savvy. I have been very blessed, I would say, that I can straddle both worlds. I understand the business aspect of it, I understand the creative aspect of it. But not all creatives are like that. They're so deep in creativity that a lot of their businesses flounder because they do not have the business aspect to go with it. If you do have that business aspect, there are so many creatives out there who need you. You know, if you know accounting well, you know law, you know marketing, you know administration and management, things that the creatives don't have, we don't have, because we are so chaotic in our minds, in our creative process. We need someone with that structure and order to be able to assist and say, okay, Omar, we understand that your head is nose deep in the creation of this project, but you know, you can't spread the word of your business only by word of mouth. I'm a social media optimizer, and I can help you get your word out there. So if you have a talent, a business skill, and you can assist a creative, because I believe that's where the future lays right now, right now, you know, with the creatives. So assist them, you know, you charge a fee if that's where your calling calls you or whatnot. And, you know, you can make money that way. And the more the creative grows, you grow as well.
Okay. All right, Kyle, we had a question that came in on the chat. What are the real benefits of e-commerce? And is it really relevant in our environment?
Yeah, I definitely would say that it definitely is relevant. The benefits, so I'll relate it to my business. E-commerce for me gives me the platform to receive multiple orders at the same time. It puts it in a format where we can focus on what we are good at. One of the things that I don't necessarily want to do is have the burden of managing delivery and managing the way in which the orders are administered. So I want something that's kind of succinct and to the point, and it spits out essentially just the information I need, what that order is, and I can focus on what I am good at, what we are good at as a company. So for me, e-commerce allows me to have that facility. One of the things that we've never been able to offer, we've never necessarily offered cashless payments outside of M-Money. That's one of the things, a major benefit for it as well. Not to actually have to handle cash in our operation. So the two major points that makes it appealing to my business, and yeah.
Okay, all right. You want to respond to any of those perspectives, Melinda, that either Omar or Kyle have just raised?
I was thinking about skills, because I think people believe, or some people believe, that you need to have the education to run a company or to deliver a product or service, but really, truly, it's your skills. And even when I left university, if I can use myself as an example, my degree is in computer science and management. It has nothing to do with accounting, numbers, nothing like that. I only came across it when I got my first job at a law firm, and I was the accounts officer there. And I was introduced to the software QuickBooks, and I fell instantly in love with accounting because I was already tech oriented in that I was exposed to computers and how they work. So it wasn't that difficult for me to transition into the world of finance through there. So over that period of time, I would have developed the accounting skill. And then also I would have had to learn to communicate to people, public speaking. That's not something that was on my forte before. I am inherently shy. So I've really had to learn to open up and really, you know, talk to people. And then there was a skill that I was sitting down on for years. And while I was growing up, yes, I'm analytical, but I'm also creative as well. So I've written 2 books, actually. So I've always had that gift of writing from a little girl. So I shied away from it. But when I first started the company, I had to write. I had to let people know about the different ideas and concepts that I had. So I started a blog, and I really saw how critical it was to have that skill, that ability to communicate. And so, you know, this life, you will come across and realize that there's certain things that you're good at. So it's not necessarily what you study, but your skills, but it's your responsibility to find them, to develop them.
But this is an interesting question that really follows on to what you've all said, and particularly what you just said, Melinda. Once you are a problem solver, you are a creative, Omar. We are all problem solvers and creative in our own way. The challenge is, how do we dismantle the roadblocks due to lack of proper business management? How do we dismantle the roadblocks?
I think one of the key things in business, and a very painful lesson that I've had to learn, I am very willpower based. I can sit down and work on a project for days on end without getting up from my computer. And eventually you come to a certain critical mass where you just can't do it all by yourself anymore. And one of the most important things that we need to learn as entrepreneurs is that we need to find partners who can work with us in the business, who have skills that we do not have. For example, in AnimeCon, my business partner, Melissa Young, she is the heart and soul of AnimeCon. She is the creative, everything that you see that is flashy and beautiful and whatnot about AnimeCon, that's all Melissa. And I take the back seat to the more boring finance and strategic development and whatnot for AnimeCon in that aspect, you know. And because I don't know much about social media and I don't go on social media often, and Melissa, you know, she does a lot of social media consulting, you know, that is where we get all the push and, you know, we have all the fun stuff going on all the time. So what I would encourage persons is, if you need to do a SWOT analysis on yourself, and in that SWOT analysis, be honest and be very, very, very strict and thorough. Then you know exactly what your weaknesses are, your strengths are, opportunities, threats. So you know exactly who you need to buttress your weak point, because no man's an island.
Yeah, okay. There's another question that talks in a sense to what are some of the stumbling blocks. It says that we must fire up the entrepreneurship engine in Barbados. What are the obstacles? What are the obstacles?
I think one of the major obstacles, the one that everyone will allude to, is often finance. But one of the things that, in my way of viewing entrepreneurship, I think you need to be creative in the ways that you approach your particular business and how you bring that to market. There are a variety of institutions throughout the island who will support you on your entrepreneurial venture. And there are definitely always ways that you can bring a product to market at a fraction of the initial cost that you would have intended. Maybe you don't bring it in the final form, but maybe you scale it back to what you can afford at that point in time. So that's one obstacle. Definitely then would be finance. And to what Omar was saying as well, one of the things that I think entrepreneurs suffer with is that we get so caught up in our ideas, and it's becomes our baby essentially. And we find that it is hard to let go control of some aspect of your business, whereby you may not have a particular skill in your business, you may not possess a skill that your business requires, whether that be graphic design, whether that be accounting, finance, and you need to be able to rely on outsourcing the particular skill that you may need and working with other entrepreneurs as a collective to move your business forward. And I think that's one of the things that we need to focus on going forward.
Yeah. Melinda, if people want to move forward but don't have money, what do you tell them?
Have a plan in place.
Have to have what? Sorry?
You don't have a plan in place.
Okay.
You don't need to have money in order to have a financial plan or a business plan. And I think sometimes people run away from having a business plan because it's very critical and it's very key. You need a map that you can use to navigate your way forward. If you don't have the money, that's okay. Like I said, I started with $0, but it's important to know what it is that you want to accomplish in stages. You're not going to accomplish everything all at once, so you don't need to put yourself under pressure in order to do so. Even when you actually do receive the money, you could seek to reinvest it. And I'm not trying to speak too much jargon right now, but when I reinvest, you put the money into advertising, letting more people know what it is that you do. Networking. Sometimes it doesn't have to cost money to network. There's a platform called LinkedIn. You can message people within your network to let them know, this is the service that I have to offer. How can I help you? If you're interested, or if you would like to have a complimentary consultation, let's set up a time for a call. So there are cost-effective ways that you could actually market your product or your service. There's Instagram. If that is your particular market, you could actually advertise, let people know this is the product or service that you have, but be mindful that Instagram is more picture oriented, and then there's Facebook. People are doing Insta lives right now. It might be a bit overbearing now, but you have information, you could get that information out there. So you shouldn't allow the fact that you don't have any money to stop you from moving forward. But there are different things that you would need to know, especially when you're looking to start a company, because I don't want to put that idea there that you don't need money in order to start a company. You need to have an idea of how much it is going to cost you to actually set up the company. So if you're actually running a bakery, so to speak, you're going to need money for equipment, setting up space, and all of those things. So it's really important to know how it costs beforehand, and doing your research, finding out, what's the cost price that people are willing to pay for your product or service. So it's those little key things that are important, especially when you're building a business plan, because that's very key. And a business plan is dynamic. If I could talk about myself, I would have created a coloring book teaching children how to manage their money. And I got people who had strengths that I didn't have. I knew I wasn't an artist. I knew that I was not good at managing the finer details of the project. I had a graphic designer assist me with that. Very team. And recently I decided that I would put it as an online course because, basically everybody's indoors. So you have to be willing to adapt and allow your business plan to be stagnant.
I'm losing a little bit of you, Melissa. Sorry, you said that what? What was the last point that you made?
No, I was saying that don't allow your business plan to be stagnant. Still be open to adapting with the present times and evolving. And every business has their unique market, their unique dynamic of accomplishing things and putting things out there. and just try to stay within the trends as much as possible. But that's all part of your business plan.
Okay. I have a question specifically for Kyle. Kyle, as much as the e-commerce is the route to go, what can the banks do differently to influence e-commerce and payment gateways to flourish, as they currently have high rates of 4 to 9% if a credit card is used? This is tough on a small business like yours, and even worse on a delivery company's platform.
Well, the rates are the main reason why I have never implemented other forms of cashless payment outside of money. So off the bat, one of the things that I would say would be some form of tailored product to small and emerging businesses that allows a lower commission. It is very difficult for a small business to give up 6 or 9%. In my particular business, it's very low margin. That's the industry across the board. For me to give up 6% or any percent for that matter, it is very challenging. And I do appreciate the need to offer the service. But I think right now we're at the stage where we can implement it, and that's the direction. Having had the time off to kind of reevaluate the business, that's the direction that we are going to go. But from the beginning, inception, we really could not afford that added expense, as minimal as it may seem to some people. As a small business, it's going to be very, very difficult. So any form of tailored product to the small and emerging businesses would be a major help. Things like money, for example, is a major help because their fees are lower as well. I think the question also was related to delivery companies as well. Again, it really comes down to the small margins in these businesses, because as a delivery company, you are essentially trying to offer a service and have it priced at a point which is most attractive to your customer base. And if you have to pay over a large commission to a financial institution, it makes it so much more expensive for you to administer your service. So I think other forms of payment mechanisms in the like of M-Money, for example, would be a good way to go.
Okay, all right. Omar, here's a question for you. When you started AnimeCon, how did you convince sponsors to buy into your idea?
In the beginning, I'll be very truthful with this. There was a lot of begging and pleading. No, honestly, to go back to what Melinda had said, the key thing that we did, Melissa and I, we put together a business plan. And a business plan is integral. If you are if you are not well, you go to a doctor. If you are looking to build a house, you get an architect. You don't go about these things by yourself unless you have the necessary skill to do such. Thankfully, business was part of my background, so I was able to build a business plan. Melissa and I spent a long time on it, and we because she often deals with sponsorship and that aspect of marketing and advertising. She was able to help me say, well, Omar, in order to get XYZ sponsor, we need to do ABC. And we need to know what the sponsors want and what sponsor A wants, sponsor B may not want. So we have to understand who we're targeting and to go for it. So the key thing is to create value. So as long as the sponsor believes he's getting $501 worth of value, he's willing to spend $500 on you. So we have to create a value for those sponsors so that they know, yes, when we give this cash or kind to AnimeCon, we will be well suited to benefit from it. So you have to have a very, very solid business plan. And what I will say, yes, traditional banks and the credit unions and whatnot may be a bit more stringent and lax to invest in young businesses and entrepreneurs. There is a lot of money in Barbados. There is a lot of it. And there are persons who are not willing to keep their money on the bank to get a fraction of 1% interest rate per annum. And they are looking for things to do with it. But they're not going to be stupid either. They will put their money where they see potential value. So you need a strong business plan. So you can go to them and say, this is my business. I'm in an industry of competitors. So this is how I'm going to differentiate from my other competitors. Or I'm in a niche market, and this is how I'm going to intend to remain in a niche market and keep the competitors away. Make sure the investor knows that you have thought of every question that you can potentially ask before he asks it. And when he realizes that you have really thought this through, he will say, you know what, this group here, this team, they could be onto something and they would want to invest. So, and of course, it's to find those persons as well. They don't exactly always advertise themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's also about the company you keep. You know, there's a saying that you are the sum total of the 5 closest people to you. So if you realize you attract persons who have a lot of business ideas or who want to invest money, or people who know people who want to invest money, you're on the right path if this is your choice. You know, so that's my take on it.
Okay. Again, we're talking about what are some of the opportunities for entrepreneurs, those who may be currently engaged in their own businesses, but there are also those persons who may have been employed and are no longer employed for various and sundry reasons, and perhaps want to pursue some kind of new venture. Is there, now Melinda, you talked about being shy initially, but however, you had a vision of self, which is a key point. You had a vision of self and you persevered in terms of being able to manifest that vision. But there are others who are fearful because they've never been in the environment before. They don't have the backgrounds that you do, either computer science, MBA, finance and accounting. How would you suggest that they go about trying to find an idea? And you've given some very concrete suggestions in terms of how they can launch the idea. But if they don't have an idea, where should they look? How should they start? These are for persons who do not have the entrepreneurial orientation in them as a start, but perhaps is later and it wants to come to the fore.
Okay. Over a lifetime, you know, you will self-actualize. You figure out what areas you're strong in and what areas you may be weak in, okay? And I want to tell people that this is a lifetime process. You don't need to put yourself under pressure to know everything all at once.
Okay.
But I will start with saying what it is that you are good at. I'm not talking about your education. I'm not talking about where you grew up, or I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what is it that people know you for. Somebody may be a great singer. That's a strength. Someone may have the ability to communicate, to teach. You can teach a course. Someone may have the ability to do hair. I think that that is very necessary at this point. Know that, you know, the salons are back open and the barbers are open.
Don't forget the shop.
Yes, yeah, fresh up, basically. But it's to discover what your strengths are. And too often, some of the things we're good at, we look at them as weaknesses, but they're actually strengths. And it comes back down to how you were raised, the environment that you grew up in, and the community that you find yourself involved in. Now, some people may look down at their skill and may not think that you can't make money with it. But again, are changing. People are more interested in what it is that you're good at doing. What comes to mind also is editing documents. If it's your forte, if that, don't look down on it. There are people that need help. There are people who are still studying their masters. There are small business people who need virtual assistants. okay? And you can work virtually. So you can start things that cost you a lot of money, but the key thing is to get the word out there. Because if you don't tell anybody this is what you're good at doing, they're never going to know. And what I had to overcome was thinking that if I put myself out there, people are going to think that I'm too arrogant or that I'm too pushy. But you know, if you're in business and this is the way that you're going to eat and that you are going to pay your bills, you're going to do whatever it takes to get the word out there about what it is that you need to do. The same way that you're handing your CVs at different organizations in order to acquire a job, it's the same thing. So, you know, if you're good at it, toot your horn, let people know this is what you're good at. And I think people need to understand also that the way you deliver your service or product sells. So if you do a good job with one person, if you get one client and you do a really good job, guess what? Somebody's going to talk your name and let you know this person helped me do this. And then that person would have been serviced, and then they're going to tell somebody else and tell somebody else and tell somebody else. Okay. Yeah. So it's just a matter of refining and really becoming excellent at what it is that you're good at doing.
Okay. All right. Kyla, Omar.
I believe, honestly, that in terms of trying to get yourself out there, it is key, as Melinda says, to push your brand. You know, you have to become your brand. People have to know you for your brand. You know, when you die, what will you be known for? You know, you must always be branded. I'm wearing my Anime Con band at all times. You know, I don't leave home without it. I sleep in it, you know, for inspiration. You know, so, you know, you have to do, you have to make sure that you are first and foremost your business wherever you go, and you must always be on. There are times when I go out, I'm feeling antisocial because I'm naturally introverted, although people don't know that. I'm naturally introverted. And when I go, I have to be on. Because if someone says to me, Omar, I want to talk to you about X, Y, Z, A, B, C, I can't just stand up and go, leave me alone. I hear relaxing, don't feel talking about it. You can't do that. You know, you have to be able to say, well, you know, this is a potential client. You don't know if this could be a potential sponsor. I'll give you an example. I was at Aon for an event a few months back, and I was sitting at my table and I was doing some work, and these persons just came, and I was not in the best mood. And these persons just came and they sat at my table and started talking. And they're like, who are these people? You know, why are you sitting at my table just there and just actually ignoring me and sitting down there talking? And, you know, my girls who work behind the bar, they're very, very good. You know, they can tell my slightest nuances, you know. And, you know, I told them, okay, no, don't chase it. It's fine. And at the end of the night, when the persons came and spoke to me in the car park, and they said, you know, we're sorry for intruding on your table, but we wanted to get close to you and speak to you. We couldn't speak to you during the event, but, you know, we want to host a series of events at Aon. And, you know, I was just thinking to myself, suppose I got vexed or cursed these people and say, you know, move from my table, you know, it potentially could have damaged a relationship. Yeah. So you have to learn tolerance. You have to understand that, you know, your business game must always be on. And if you want your business game to be off, you know, go in the shower where you're alone and, you know, you let your hot water run on you. And that's your private time. That's your peaceful time, you know. So for all entrepreneurs, I would always say, you know, keep your head on in the game and, you know, just keep moving forward. Your business is how you eat. It's your bread and butter. And when you stop working, money stops coming in. It's not like if you're in a 9 to 5 and you can say, well, you know, I have a bad day, so I don't feel pushing a liquor work. I used to get the same salary at the end of every month. But how hard or how easy you work, you know, your salary is still the same. But if you're working for yourself, you're your own boss. When you're like a shark, if you stop moving, you die. So keep at it.
Okay. Kyle?
I just think personal branding, as Omar said, you represent your business at all times. So if I leave home often, I'm wearing a curbside hat. if there is in my interactions as well. I think one of the things that happens to entrepreneurs as well, especially in a social media age, social media is a very powerful tool, but it can also work against you and work against you very quickly. And it's easy for an entrepreneur fully engrossed in their business, receiving, for example, something as simple as a customer complaint. How you respond to that person. People can be quite offensive in the way that they approach you with their complaints, and you can't respond to them out of anger, because again, that can turn a interaction completely negative. I think one of the most powerful things that people don't recognize as an entrepreneur and dealing with customer complaints. A customer complaint is a great opportunity for you to turn a negative situation into a positive. You have a platform where you may not otherwise have had an interaction with an individual. So you kind of make your business personal then, and you can have that interaction with the person and turn that person into a loyal customer. So I think even in the negatives, they're great positives to be found. And that's something that I see every day. I see it happen to my peers, and I encourage anyone who is pursuing their passion. At the end of the day, you are your brand, and the person that you offend or you don't handle in the best way, that person has their peers as well, and it often goes back to what Melinda was saying. If I interact with one customer today, and that customer is well pleased with the service that I've offered or the product that I've offered, the potential benefits, the word of mouth benefits, especially for a small business that has limited resources to handle marketing, one of the most powerful things will be word of mouth. So you definitely need to work on personal brand. And in terms of finding ideas, I think once you are entrepreneurially minded, ideas come to you. I've never been the type of person to go out looking for ideas. So I don't say, well, okay, I want to have another source of income. So let me go search Google for another idea. If you're entrepreneurially minded, ideas come to you in your everyday life because you have the perspective that you are always looking for opportunity. So to use the example, for example, We Fetch. I'm sure Lily and Sophie had no plan to start a delivery business, but they're entrepreneurially minded. They saw the opportunity and they took full advantage of it. And you can see the space of time that they've been able to scale the business, to have it set up in other territories, and the support that's come behind it. So that's just an example. For me, in my transportation business, I had no interest in transportation whatsoever, but an opportunity presented itself. I started to touch base with some people in the industry and see what it was like and do my research. And then it became a real opportunity that I could touch and hold and feel and pursue. But I don't think people often think that you have to have this gem of an idea, and it often stops them from pursuing anything. But as I said, have the entrepreneurial mindset, have that outlook, always looking for opportunities, and things will come to you in the simplest ways while you're watching television, as you're driving down the road. An issue that you may have in your own life. I don't know, I might be cooking and want something different, and then that's the way that I may have gotten my idea. So it's just I think entrepreneurship more than anything is a mindset, and that would be the thing that I would say to people.
Okay.
Hi, Jeannine, can I add something?
No, please.
To what Kyle said? I believe that was brilliant, Kyle. What I would like to add is I think entrepreneurship is like a muscle as well. And if you go to the gym and you're working arms all the time, your arms get stronger, you know? So the more you focus on entrepreneurially minded activities, You know, when I travel, you know, I don't just travel and say, oh my goodness, I have to go to Miami and go shopping. I'm looking around and seeing what ideas are here that are not in Barbados. And if they're not in Barbados, why are they not in Barbados? You know, because no one has ever done it, or people have done it and failed. And, you know, these things, you're bombarded by ideas all the time. So, you know, the more you exercise that muscle, the more the muscle can work for you. But that's a very, very good example.
Melinda, I see you shaking your head. You wanted to weigh in at that juncture?
I again, transitioning from full-time employment into entrepreneurship was a struggle for me at first, because I was accustomed working with people. So February 29th, I left, that was 2012, yes. And then March the 1st, I'm in a room by myself. And it was the most eerie feeling that I ever had. And then it dawned upon me, Melinda, it's up to you. It's not up to an employer, anything. You're the one that has to push this. So I had to really start developing that entrepreneurial mindset. I started reading articles, you know, shared by Inc. And started looking at different videos about entrepreneurship and building a business. I had to look at formatting a business plan, something that was not too fun for me to do at the time. But I realized the level of responsibility that it was placed on me. And I had to come out of my comfort zone. If you want to be in business and you want to succeed and you want to make sure that it lasts long, you're gonna have to do some things that you're not accustomed doing. Selling is not my strong point, I will admit that, but I've had to learn to sell myself, if I could say that, in terms of letting people know this is what I'm good at, this is what I would do. I mean, up to today, I called someone just to check in with them, just to say hello. And then they were like, oh, you know what? I actually was thinking of you because I actually want you to help me with my finances. There you go. So you have to, you know, you have to get out and really push yourself. It's all about motivating yourself. Nobody's gonna toot your horn. And in some instances, it can be a little bit lonely, especially when you have that big vision and you see the solution, no one else sees the solution. So it's up to you to bring it to the fore. But then also you have to be very careful about who you share your vision with, because there are people who are not entrepreneurially minded like you are, and they're gonna want to throw water on your fire, so to speak. Because I remember when I first started at Strap Finance, the question that I got was at that time, are you sure in this present economic time, you sure you want to do this? Why not build it up on the side and then it will grow? And I will tell you, I wasn't always a risk taker. So for me, leaving a full-time job to put my all into it is something that I would not typically do, but I had to do it in order to get to the stage that it is at right now.
Okay.
Just to add one thing, what came to me from Melinda was just self-development. You may not have the idea right now, but put yourself in a position that when you do have that idea, you can take full advantage of it. So just self-development, maybe you think, no, well, you have the time on your hands, focusing on developing yourself in business and in various aspects. And then once the idea comes, you're then in a position to take advantage.
Okay. Going forward, we have about 4 or 5 minutes left. Going forward, the economic environment is already bad. It is going to get worse. What would you suggest, or let me come at it from a different perspective. What is your vision for Barbados, for entrepreneurs going forward? Let's say you had a crystal ball and you're looking at 2021, 2022. What is your vision for entrepreneurship going forward in Barbados?
If I may start, I like to say, don't let a good crisis waste. crises, they don't come often, but when they do, they shake things up. And across the world for the last century, 2 centuries, the greatest innovations came out of the greatest crises. And now is the time for you that if you have an idea, get it out there. Push yourself, don't let fear and fear mongering get to you. There are persons who I know that before they say, they're yes men and they're no men. Some of them would say, yes, Omar's a great idea. And then they let me walk off a cliff. And then there are no men who say, no, that can't work, that can't work. And then I'm so saddled with fear and doubt that, you don't get anything done. You have to make sure that you can allow yourself as entrepreneurs with people who are critically minded, yes, but don't just say yes or no, but say, yes, this can work because, no, this can't work because, and give solutions. You don't want to be around persons who just give a yes or a no and then continue to play, Candy Crush. You need persons who can sit down with you and really give you the insight which is needed to do work. So what I would tell all entrepreneurs is we're now in a time of flux. I like to call it an inflection point where we can really do some real good. We are a very educated society. We have a lot of ideas. Now it's time to get into creativity, intellectual property, because we're a bit expensive on the manufacturing side. Things may be a little costly if you're looking to export. But when it comes to intellectual property, you can, and these things are quote unquote free because they come from a mental process. So if you can create something and get it out there to the world, do that. We have a lot of talent in Barbados. Just get it out there.
Okay, thanks. Kyle?
My vision for entrepreneurs and my hope for entrepreneurs in this time is that we come together more in forums like this, where we can share our experiences, where I don't have to reinvent the wheel because Omar may have had the experience in a particular area and I can draw on his experience. And I think I've seen a number of forums like this one coming out of COVID. And I think that's a great positive for people to have the conversation, because one of the things that concerns me is how many people are kind of, I don't want to say pigeonholed, because there's nothing wrong with traditional forms of employment. Some people are given to that, and that's perfectly fine. If that's your passion, by all means, pursue it. But I think entrepreneurship coming to the fore and being a real option for people, for creatives, for artisans, etc., is a major. It's something that I would like to see come about out of COVID. And also I would like to see, I know in Barbados, entrepreneurship is often it's a pet topic. It's one of those things that everyone talks about and everyone loves it. Until you actually try to implement something, and then there's constantly obstacles in your way, whether that be government, finance, a variety of things. And I think us as entrepreneurs need to come together to represent ourselves and to have platforms that we can go to and just to share knowledge and direction. And I would like to see some of those obstacles removed to foster entrepreneurship more so. It's one of the most fulfilling things that persons can do. And that's mainly the two things for me: just coming together and the removing of obstacles.
And you see that as something that you would like the BEF to do more of? Yeah,
definitely. I think, yeah, there is great value in forums like this, where people who may be considering entrepreneurship and have fears can come and have a real touch point. They may not know Omar, but they may know me, or they may not know me, but they may know Melinda, and it makes it real for them. It's often easy to, you look at the outside world and you see all the success stories, the Jeff Bezos and all those guys. But then it's often more impactful when you have a reference point that's real to you, that you can touch and feel, that you've seen. and you hear a story of for example, Omar with Aeon, and how he's come through the process. There's great value in someone. There may be a bartender that wants to start a bar that may draw great inspiration from Omar's story. And I think these are the type of stories that we need to tell so that we have real role models. For me, as an entrepreneur, we often aren't taught business. Business is not something that's second nature to our society. And a lot of people don't have a reference point. They don't have someone to have a conversation with. They can't pick up the phone and call anyone. So it's forums like this, putting ourselves out there so that someone can reach out to us and have a conversation outside of this forum, to foster that mentality and that community of entrepreneurs. That would be the great positive that will, in my opinion, will come of COVID.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll have Melinda give her last perspective. Yes.
Sure thing. My vision for entrepreneurs is to become financially literate based on the business side of things and on the personal finance side of things. And it starts with knowing when to separate your business from your personal. So, you know, I often ask questions when I'm meeting with someone, have you set up a business bank account? And they will tell me, no, I just put it all on my personal bank account. And then when you place things on your personal bank account, then you're not able to determine whether your company is making a profit or a loss. So it's really, really crucial and critical to know your numbers as a business owner. Know the money that's coming in and know the money that's going out. Then you'll be able to measure the performance to see, you know, if there are certain items that are selling great and certain items that aren't selling great. Well, you'll stop that and then you'll more focus on that item that is selling the most. Having accounting software, there's Wave Apps. That is a free software that and it's user friendly. You could start there. You could enter your income, you could enter your expenses. And the wonderful thing about using accounting software is that it generates the reports for you. So you don't necessarily need to be an accountant and you don't necessarily need to hire one. But if it is that you're looking to take in financial statements for funding, well, then you may need to have an accountant to cite them, to verify them, which is fine. But I think in most instances, we tend to neglect ourselves as entrepreneurs on a personal finance level, in that we don't think about retirement, we don't think about health, we don't think about saving and investing. So it's a matter of going back to the core of things, you know, learning how to price your products, learning how to track your money, knowing about NAS and PAYE, contributing to those entities, paying yourself a salary, managing your budget. So those are key areas I think entrepreneurs should be strengthened in, and that's my vision.
Thank you. Thank you again, Melinda, Kyle, and Omar, for quite a stimulating discussion this evening. And to close off our series, and our session was, what are the opportunities for entrepreneurs in a post-COVID-19 environment? Because this is the last of our webinar series, I wish to thank a number of parties, please. Gateway Design 4 is fixated on helping you to communicate your brand convincingly to your market and the world. Their focus is on branding, design strategy, marketing services, and support and digital media. Gateway Design 4 were our sponsors in preparing all of our ads, which you would have seen on Facebook, on Instagram, and throughout all of our communication. So we wish to thank Gateway Design 4 for your contribution and look forward to further assistance going forward. Thank you to the three of you, Kyle, Omar, and Melinda, for your time this evening and for your sharing your personal stories, which I think was extremely practical and very useful. This series was conceptualized by Susan Branca Green, who we now call our promoter of this series. She was ably assisted by Ryan Ford and Christian Paul. as well as by all of the directors of the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation. And thank you to our chairperson, Mrs. Celeste Foster, who's unfortunately unable to be with us this evening. She has another engagement, but she gave her full support to this series. And I think we can all say, as a BEF, that it was very useful. And to all persons who would have logged on at one point or another, we want to thank you. And we look forward to your continued support in the future. Thanks again to all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.